Good afternoon, Floss Tube. This is Karen from Prom Queen Stitcher, and I'd like to present for my February Floss Tube. It's been a while, maybe about 2 months since I've last been on. At that time, I showed you some of my Christmas ornaments and so on, and so now it's time to do it again. So I wanted to talk about several things today. Let's talk stitching first, and then if I have time in my 15-minute increment that I can film, I will talk about some other things, some life updates. First of all, my current whip-in project, which you guys have been seeing probably the last 3 times I've posted, is this baked goods by Little House Needleworks, and here's the actual photo on the front. I'm doing it in a large count linen, and I think it's probably the linen that is used in the Christmas stockings by Shepherd's Bush. And I love it because it's so easy to see and it seems like it goes pretty fast. I'm using four strands of DMC, and this little poinsettia that's right here, I think I'm going to put beads in the middle. And this just, right now, this just seems to work pretty well. I had to laugh. My daughter said something about it after I posted it on Instagram, and she goes, "Mom, it's not Christmas anymore." But I thought, well, obviously you don't understand that we stitchers stitch, not in the current season, but with whatever time we feel like we want to stitch. And so this will be ready for next year. So I'm pretty happy with it. Not too much more to go. I think I have the cupcake to go and the pie to finish, and then the border to do. And so, like I said, it's been a nice one to do. I do have one request that I was wondering if some of you folks who have been around the industry for a while might be able to help me do. Back in the early 90s, some of us did what they called duplicate stitch, which was to stitch on sweaters. And what we were doing was we were duplicating the stockinette stitch that was on a sweater with the floss. It was like a V shape. And at that time, this book by Sue Hillis was available. And it was the same idea that you use the stockings, or little stockings that are made out of sweater yarn, and you duplicate the stitch on those, and then these are little, they just a little pick on the inside with a gift card or something like that makes a great gift. And I would like to be able to find some more of these stockings. I did contact Sue Hillis, who had written this particular design, and had asked her if she knew where I might be able to get some. I thought, well, maybe she had a source, since this was her book to start with. And she said, unfortunately, her source dried up quite a few years ago. The woman who was making them for her to sell stopped knitting them, and so is no longer doing it. And so several of my friends who are knitters have told me that hey, that would be a breeze to knit something up like that. It's just not that complicated. I don't know that I have one in my stash anymore, because then they could copy it right off. And I asked Sue at the time, I said, Sue, would that be violating some copyright or anything like that if I had somebody make them? And she said, oh no, she said the knitting world's different than the stitching world in terms of sharing things. And she said something like that, it would be fine if somebody could knit some up for me. Because I'd like them just to be able to, once again, put in little gift cards at Christmas time with a little Christmas pick, or just what have you. So anyway, calling on all my floss tube friends, especially those of you who have stitched for a long time, if you have any of these little stockings that you'd like to get rid of or allow me to purchase, I'd be happy to do so. So anyway, that's something I wanted to remember to say to you folks. I wanted to do a little bit of walking down memory lane today with some of my old projects, just so that you can see kind of the breadth and some of the things that I've done in the past. Let's see, here's one, and I know I did it in 1987 because I've actually got my initials and the date on it. It's a out of a book called For My Sons, and this is what it looks like. Let me read you the verse on it. Hopefully I won't choke up when I read it, because it really says the way things were, when my son was little. Sticky fingers, dirty face, rugs and pillows out of place, cars and tractors here and there, blocks and boats everywhere. Gold and silver have I none, but worth $1 million is my son. I don't know if I mentioned it to you all before, but my children are adopted, and so I don't know. I know all parents are sentimental about their kids, but this one really tugged at my heartstrings. And he was born in 1985, so this was, I got it done 1987, which would have been about the time that he was doing all of that. I don't know. It's one of those things that I think with adoptions, I think the children are so longed for and so wanted. Not that biological children aren't either, because they are. But for me and my journey, my son was very, very, very much wanted, and we felt very blessed that he came to live in our house with us. We got him as a newborn. He was born in Oregon, and we had to fly up there from California to get him. And his birth parents were actually from Washington State, so we had Washington, Oregon, and California involved in the adoption process. And but it came together, and so we were just so very fortunate that things went so well. And he was he's been such a great kid. He just had his birthday this past week. He turned 34, and so I definitely have been feeling a lot of nostalgia this week, thinking about him and how things were, back when we flew up to Oregon to pick him up. Okay, a second project I'd like to show you refers to the adoption process, and I believe it's done by Alma Lynn, and she's an old school stitcher or designer, and here it is. She's holding a teddy bear and rocking him, and the verse on it is, "Neither flesh of my flesh nor bone of my bones, never forget for a single minute. You grew not under my heart, but in it." And this was also done in 1987. And that's the way I really, feel about my children, in terms of them and, coming to live in our family. So here this one is. I also have an adoptive daughter. She was older when we got her. She was about 15 months old. And, we've had some challenges along the way, but overall things are going well. She's 30 now, and you know what? It's all really, really good. And, I just feel so blessed that we had them live in our family. So I got the experience of having a son and a daughter. Here is another oldie but goodie. It's a Mary Cox piece, and Mary's projects frequently are smalls. They're needle cases, like this one was, or they're needle books, or even like I think that was a pin keep. And so I decided once I got them stitched that I'm not doing that finishing, no way, no how. And I don't think Vonna was around, so I went ahead and thought, well, why don't I just frame them flat in a frame, together? And it turned out really, really well. Mary's famous for her queen stitches, and I don't know if you can see it this closely, but there are a lot of queen stitches in these little bouquets, and I just thought it was so much fun. And so here, you can look at that a little closer, and then also the little pin keep. So this is something that was a little different than the intended purpose by the designer, but I think it still came out really nicely. And I liked her color combinations, that kind of pinkish peach color with the light green. It was just really, really nice. I have a couple of other things that I wanted to show you. Here's an Afghan that I totally had forgotten I had. And while I was prepping for this floss tube, I went into my closet, and lo and behold, here it is. Excuse me, it was a round robin, so different people stitched on it. I think I stitched about 5 squares because I don't think we had that many people. And this particular design was by Sue Hillis. It was like a Christmas book that she had, but it was all done in the pastels, which you know, back in the early 90s, late 80s, that was really the thing. And so here's some of the different motifs on it. I really, really liked it. It was kind of neat, and it was on, I believe this is called Queen Anne, is the type of fabric for the Afghans. I don't see very much of this anymore. I guess people maybe aren't stitching Afghans anymore, but at the time it was a lot of fun, and it was a good round robin project. So that's another thing that I have from back in the day. Let's see. Lastly, I have a bell pull that I believe I got these designs out of Cross Stitch and Country Crafts, which was published by Better Homes and Gardens back in the 80s and the 90s. And these were little motifs, I believe, that they ran per month. This probably was a September one since it's an ABC one. And I just thought it was so pretty. I think it's actually done on maybe Jobelin or Lugana. I'm not exactly sure. I know it's not a linen, but I thought it turned out really cute, and my friend made it into the bell pull, and you know, it has ribbons on the side and stuff. So that was really kind of fun. So there is that. Let's see what else. You know, we talk. I've listened to a couple of brand new floss tubers, and I like some of the things that they're doing in their floss tube. It gives me some good ideas to include in mine. One of the ones that I've actually binged on in the last week is Handiwork Maniac, Brenda, who lives in the Salt Lake area in Utah. And she talks about the things I wish I were stitching. And I thought that's kind of a good thing to include, because you know, we may be stitching on something, but we have our eye on the next thing, or the next thing around the corner. Here's a little twisted threads. I believe it's going to be a pin, so you must have to put it on really, really small fabric. And knowing me, I'm not going to want to put up with that, so I'll probably put it on larger fabric and not use the pin part. But you know, I thought this was appropriate for March. It's called Tin Pin St. Pat, so that does make sense. But I think it's really cute, the little leprechaun hat with the gold buckle and the shamrocks. So that's something I kind of wish I were stitching. I think that would be fun to do. Another piece that is almost finished. It's an old whip. I think I've done 3 out of the 4 seasons, and they're all drawn thread. And they're her seasons. I think they're called spot samplers. Yes. So this is the last one, Spot on Spring. And I'm almost finished with it. I don't know what the holdup is. I think my last little motif, it probably was something that I didn't want to put up with, and so I kind of stalled. But anyway, it's right here. And so I'm almost done with that. And I believe it's on, I think it's on 30, let's see, I can tell. I think Belfast, yeah, Belfast, which is 32 count linen. And so I just need to finish it up, and then I'll have all 4 seasons done. And like I said, I don't understand myself sometimes, why sometimes I run out of gas on things and don't finish when I'm so close to finishing. But it's just kind of goes with the territory, I think. Okay, one last thing I'll do well, you know what, I'll do these another day. In terms of life updates, had the fortune of having my son and my only granddaughter come and visit last month. I hadn't met my granddaughter. She's the daughter of my son's significant other, and she's 12 years old, and just totally enjoyed getting to meet her. And they were here for a week, and so that was really a fun time. I got really tickled because her favorite part of the whole trip, even though they went to the desert. They traveled all around. He showed her all kinds of things. The thing that she liked the best was our local park where there are tons of feral cats. She's a cat fan. And she just thought that was the best. They had to go back every single day after they went the first time. So I got kind of tickled about that. Of all the things she would pick out to like in Bakersfield, California, it was Hart Park and the feral kitties that live there. Well, folks, I'm just about out of town. If I make this too long, I have a horrible time uploading. So I'm going to sign off for now. I hope you have a really good rest of February and beginning of spring in case we ever get some. We're getting tons of rain here, but actually we're getting lots of storms, but not a whole lot when it does storm, maybe half an inch. But for us, with a yearly average of 6 inches, we'll take whatever we can get. I hope that you keep your needles flying, and I hope life is good for you. It's good to talk to you all. Bye-bye.